Well, here is Mr. Cantor's wonderful logo, insight and inspiration. Yeah, guys, knowledge is peril, ignorance is a good thing. Right. Science, Creation, and Justice in the New Dystopia by me, and there's the book. Perdido Street Station by China Mieville, who I did not include a picture of him, but if you can imagine, kind of, just think intellectual biker gangster. Alright. The book takes place in New Probizon, which is a dystopia. Mieville mentions that the city is basically an abyss of pestilence and plague and political corruption, and it's just not a good place to be. So that kind of sets the tone for the book, and it reminded me a lot of other novels that we've read this year, such as 1984, Clockwork Orange, and the like. Alright, the main character, Isaac, is a scientist, and he's in his laboratory one day, and this creature called a Garuda walks in. And a Garuda is a half-bird, half-human being. And this one in particular, Yagaric, has come to Isaac because he needs help. And as punishment for a mysterious crime, he has lost his wings. They were severed from his body, and he wants Isaac to create a new pair of wings for him, essentially to make him whole again. So Isaac agrees to do it, and he begins researching the mechanisms of flight. So he gathers all these creatures, and he's just observing how they work, how they fly, the differences in anatomy, and this is where the book started to remind me.
Teachers, please excuse this interruption. Students, there is a bronze-colored Nissan Altima that is parked in the church lot that needs to be moved immediately. A bronze-colored Nissan Altima. The license plate is CSP 1645. If you are the student that owns a bronze Nissan Altima and you're parked in a church lot, report to the attendance office with your keys immediately. Thank you.
That's embarrassing.
Okay. So, at this point, the book started to remind me of Frankenstein because it seemed to get into issues involving creation and ethics and the morality or immorality of biotechnology. So, while he's building his menagerie, he receives these caterpillar larva things, and he decides that he's going to raise these creatures, whatever they are, from egg all the way to mature aerial locomotive creature. So he does, and what he gets are these things called slate moths, which are basically gigantic moths that fly around and give people nightmares and suck out your soul, and it gets out of yes, they do. And it gets out of control. So, in that, I saw an issue of the responsibility of creating things, and is it really a good idea to tamper with things that you may or may not understand? And I think that this is very applicable to our society, and you see this issue in things like genetic engineering, stem cell research, cloning, just to give some examples. And by default, that ties in with the question of how far is too far when it comes to messing with life, trying to capture the essence of life, or take a living thing and alter it in some way so that it's arguably something else. And in the Society of New Probizon, there are these things called remades, which are they have this process called remaking, in which they take criminals and they altered their appearance. Like, for example, one of the characters in the book was talking about how they were in court, serving jury duty, and they saw a woman who was sentenced to remaking for having killed her baby because the child wouldn't stop crying or something. So the judge decided that they were going to graft the baby's arms to the woman's face so that she would never forget what she did. And that's basically what remaking is. The remaids are on the bottom tier of the New Crobuzonian society, so in that respect I guess you could sort of compare them to the Poles in 1984. No one likes them, everyone thinks that they're worthless and that they deserve any mistreatment that they get, so they just kind of dish it out to these guys. But the remades, that made me wonder, again, how far is too far? Is it, and at what point does a being become something from what it originally was? And do we have the right to alter a creature in a way that it is no longer, you know, what it originally was? Do we have the right to alter the nature of a thing? So, I think the main issue of the book, the one that struck me, was what's the boundary between a monster and a man? And where do we draw the line, and how can we apply science responsibly with minimal detrimental effect to society? Yes.